What's up guys, Anfield here. Today's video is going to be about the T44. It's a third mark session finish video that I did on the European server. So the reason I chose to do the T44 was because a lot of people have been asking me both on YouTube and on Facebook if I could also have a look at some of the, tier 8 or tier 7 kind of range tanks, because not everyone has tier 10s. And while I do believe that general tactics and strategy can be taken from the tier 10s that I've, produce videos on and translate it down into the lower tiers as well, I do understand that people want to see how some of these other tanks play. So T44 was one that was suggested, so that's why I played the T44. It's also a tank that leads to the Russian mediums. Obviously those tanks are researched a lot, so a lot of people have gone through or have the T44, so hopefully this will be helpful to those guys. So I can see here in the session stats there's a lot of battles, but this isn't all of the battles. I actually played more than that. The mark percent was like around 65% or so, so obviously I had to bring it up from there up to the 95% region to third mark the tank. And so yeah, there's a lot of battles, and this isn't all of them, but I just figured I'd put something up there so you could at least see the final run-in, with the battle there at the top being the final third mark battle on Erlenberg. But there'll be more time to talk about the tank as well as the sessions that I played in it, in the actual battles and replays I have prepared, so let's get straight into those. So the first replay that I have for you guys is on Siegfried Line. It's on Assault and I'm on Attack mode. Now, Siegfried Line is a map that I don't really like as a medium tank. It's a very heavy / alpha TD oriented map, but it can be very difficult to really assert yourself as a medium tank. But on Assault, it's actually not too bad. There's lots of little ways you can sort of flex around the map and get damage, whereas you might not be able to do that on the standard version of the map. Now, the reason I chose this replay is because it is a good example of that, flexing around, moving around, looking at the map in order to, see where you should go and try to get damage. Often people will sit in one position and then they'll just like sit and not move. Well, tank destroyer plays and even just like people playing medium tanks and other things like that, they just sit. So yeah, I didn't expect that AMX sort of YOLO pass like that. I was completely tunnel vision because in no way did I ever think that that was ever going to be something that would happen. I rushed that shot because it looked like he was actually going to go into a dip, so I probably should have saved it, but I didn't. It was kind of like an optical illusion as far as I was concerned. So this little position right here is really nice for tanks that have okay turret armor and good depression. So the T44 is a tank that I was actually really surprised about how effective its depression was. I expected it to be very limited. I mean, I haven't played this tank in a long time. So the fact that it has depression was something that really surprised me. So this kind of spot's really nice. I can just come up here, and if tanks get lit, I can get a couple early shots on tanks like this. Now, when I'm on the other side, I'm on defense, I will usually pre-aim this position to prevent tanks doing exactly what I'm doing right now, which is why you often need a decent turret as well as the depression in order to be effective in this spot. So I'm just looking for a little bit of shots where I can get them. The AMX has lit me, so obviously I need to back down in case the Jagdpanther hits me. So at this point, there's a couple light tanks, but mostly it's just really far back TDs that are difficult to light. So I'm gonna move into the middle here because I've kind of decided that there's nothing really much for me to do in that position anymore. So I'm going to poke up here just to have a look. You have to be really careful because sometimes there are tanks ready to shoot you there, so you just have to be careful. But there's nothing there, so I'm moving along the back here. And you can see that there's some tanks over here. I'm going to look for shots, but, because of the position that they're in versus obviously the hills, I'm kind of blocked and I can't really do any damage. So I'm moving up a little bit to see if I can change the angle, although you have to be careful. Again, looking at some of the streets in the city just to make sure you don't get punished. So I got lit there, and I don't know how I got lit. I can't really see where it came from, but oh well. E75, nice juicy side shot. So they've moved up a little bit, which gave me a bit of shots. And you can see our object 432 is kind of backing off a little bit, so I'm not really sure if there's going to be any more shots I can get from there, so I'm just moving back over to here. See if there's any shots from here. There's a Jagdtiger there. Bail. You don't want to get hit by a Jagdtiger in a T44. Probably going to ammo rack or something. Which is another thing I thought the ammo rack on the T44 was going to be really bad, but it actually wasn't too bad. I did get ammo racked, but I never once blew up, as far as I can remember. But I got my ammo rack damaged, but it felt no more than any other tank that I would be playing, so. But you can see here I've got some shots once again over here, so I flex back over here to shoot this AMX and see if there's an E75 shot as well. So, see if I can hit the E75. So, you know, you can just kind of see that going back and forth is really important. You can't just sit in one spot and be static, especially when you're in a medium. So that T44 just crossed for free, so I was kind of surprised about that. I thought the Yak Tiger would still be there, but the Yak Tiger's moved up here. So I'm thinking about going for him at this point because I kind of see most of where the enemy team is, and this T44-1's already in there balls deep, so I figure, well, I guess I might as well go. Now, if the 54-1's going to go around there, I can wait for the Yak Tiger to turn to deal with the 54-1, and I can come from behind. Unfortunately for me, a random Borsig, and I tried to do a little wiggle there to trick him into shooting my tracks out, but no such luck. But yeah, obviously that sucks. That's a massive amount of damage I just took because of random Borsig. You can't really predict things like that. It just sort of happens, and it's unfortunate when it does happen. So, I mean, our T-54-1 was just there, and there was no sign of that guy, so just unfortunate, but that's okay. So I've gone back to this little building area here so that I can sort of see if I can not only be safe from any other guns, but also see what shots I can get on these guys. There's a couple guys poking, so I figured I would get some shots. But once again, there's not a great deal I can do from here. I'm still looking, but I mean, you can see all the tanks are pretty much covered. Now, I took that shot. Obviously, it was like a very difficult shot, but I guess I have the rounds, and you know, you miss any shots you don't take anyway, so I went for it just to see. Now you can see our 54 or T-54, sorry, is in there as well now. So Borsig down. That leaves just the Yak Tiger. So I'm pretty much at this point looking at the Yak Tiger, thinking, well, I can now go for him, and I should be able to get to the Yak Tiger while he's distracted by this T-54, and he's going to be turning around, so I don't have to worry about it. So yeah, just basically waiting. So I've moved over the map quite a lot so far. Nice shot onto the Yak Tiger to get the kill, but other than that, like, I kind of went for the road wheel there just to see, but I didn't get as much out of that Yak Tiger as I was kind of hoping I would get, but oh well, happens. So T-54 is now sort of trading shots with this Super Pershing, so I'm going to go for the Super Pershing, see if I can get some shots. Unfortunately for me, the Super Pershing is immediately looking at me, which sucks because I take damage for that. I'm going to back up and use this T-54 to protect me. T-54 kills him anyway, so it's not like a big deal. So I'm going to blind shoot this IS, and I'm pretty sure that, because the second time he gets lit, he has less HP, so I'm pretty sure that blind shot did hit him. And then there's this random YOLO Yak Tiger 8.8. I don't really know what he's doing. I think he's... Nope, I don't have anything. Thought maybe I could think of something that he was trying to do, but oh well. He's just like going straight across there. So yeah, that's pretty much the end of this battle, guys. It's not like spectacular or anything like that. It's just that it was a good example of flexing around the map. So next up is another assault mode, and this time it's Corellia. I'm on attack once again. Immediately there's some VK talking some trash about his teammates. I think he had not the most spectacular stats, so I was kind of surprised that he was, or maybe I'm not surprised that he was talking a lot of crap. But anyways, so Corellia Assault is an interesting map. It can be sometimes quite fun. It kind of depends. It's a toss-up. If there's a lot of artillery, it's not very fun. There's only one artillery, so that's not too bad. One of the issues is pushing after you, especially when you're on attack. There's a lot of tank destroyers that sit on either the 1 line or the 8 line, and they just sit and they wait for you to push that flank, and then there goes most of your hit points. So you have to be very, very careful how you play it. Now, I rarely ever go north because I just don't like it as much. I don't think there's much ability to push. It's very difficult to make that flank work, and I think there's less cover for those that are trying to be aggressive as well. So I don't go north that often, even if I spawn up there, maybe if I'm in like a super slow tank. I like to go south. Now, in this case, I wouldn't go north anyways. You see, we only have one heavy dude going up there. And yeah, so it's a flank that I don't like, and there's only one dude there. So not something that I'm too interested in doing. Don't really ever want to go to a flank with 1 or 2 guys if you can avoid it. Now, unfortunately for this team, our IS-3 didn't load in. I actually thought our IS-3 was going up here, but he hadn't loaded in. So it's just me and this prototype so far. But it's okay because we have so many tanks on the hill. Now, that's not okay. But, you know, it is what it is, so you have to use what you have. So we have a lot of tanks on the hill, so we have to use them, right? So if we do get pushed or there is an aggression here, I should be okay. because we have so many tanks up there on the hill ready to snipe across. And you'll kind of see this actually come into effect. You can see there's a little light tank like YOLO'd up here. Well, whatever. I'm not too worried about that. I poke here to take a look, and there's tons of tanks. Now, obviously, this is not something that I would have been punished for if I'd spawned in the south, but of course, I spawned in the north, and I had to come all the way back down. So, rip our prototype. At this point, I'm thinking, oh, crap. But then, yeah, rip. That's why you don't YOLO like this 5100. And I think the other tanks sort of learned the lesson of the 5100 after that. Except for this guy. He's going to YOLO too, I guess, because, you know, reasons, I don't know. But yeah, if you do have a lot of tanks on the hill, just play passive initially, just see if you can bait them, especially if you don't have a lot of tanks on your team over on this flank itself. So at this point, we've sort of forced the enemy team back, so that's really, really good. I'm trying to do a bit of snipes here on these guys. Unfortunately, that one didn't work, but the T44 gun is actually surprisingly quite effective, I think. So, you know, it's not the end of the world. And I'm moving over here now just to see if I can get a new angle. You have to be very careful though, because if they do have tanks in the base, you can get shot from here. But because we have like a weird push going on with our super pushing and an RU-251, I'm taking a little bit of a risk to do this. Basically, this area is allowing me to be sort of using the depression of the T44 to snipe these guys, rather than me poking out against the rock where my hull was exposed. Only my turret is mostly exposed here, with a little bit of my hull probably. So this is a little bit easier for me to snipe from here. Just seeing if I can get any shots. Now, again, you'd have to be careful if there was actual tanks in their base ready to snipe you, because sometimes if you back up too far, you are in their draw distance if they're close enough. But in this case, we're doing okay, so not too worried about it. I'm going to move up because it looks safe enough to move up. The only problem is, of course, the T-54E1, but if he does try to climb over here, he could be vulnerable to my tank destroyers and other random tanks that have decided to go hill, like the Oni. I don't know. But anyways, yeah, I'm just trying to see if I can inch my way forward. That guy dies, so I don't really have to do anything about that anymore. So this is how you kind of have to push up here, is you use this rock here. It's tempting to go down the one line, but that's where the tank destroyers usually sit ready to snipe you. Now, most of their team is lit, but you don't want to take the risk anyway, just in case something is flexed over there. Just seeing if I can get the Ferdinand, but no joy there. So, yeah, I'm moving. You can see here there's lots of rocks and cover as you move down here. So this is sort of the way that you kind of have to move and push up this flank, because otherwise it's kind of difficult to do it. Because you could get sniped by a TD. Just seeing to see if I can get any shots, but there doesn't seem to be any, so I'm going to go for this T-54A1, who's sort of trapped like a rat in a barrel. Just going to see if I can farm him for a little bit. This is, of course, a little bit risky. Now, you can see there, let's see if the Lorraine against the rock. Now, I haven't turned to shoot him, but I have actually noticed it. He's been unlit now, but if you look here, I did actually notice, and it looked like he was overturned. So I know roughly where he is. I took a mental image of it while I was trying to farm the T-54A1. I'm getting unlit here, and I'm going to try and snipe that Lorraine, who I, had a sneaking suspicion that he was flipped on his side. So I'm ready to take my shot, and of course he appears right there. So it doesn't look nearly as impressive, but I did know he was there, and it was going to be a blind shot. Even though he got lit anyways. So, a little bit of extra situational awareness, so to speak, so I could see that he was there while I was farming the 54-1. So I was just sort of planning ahead my next shot. So now I'm just moving up. We're going to have to deal with the Ferdinand and the Waffle, which it's a T-44. That's quite difficult because obviously they have big guns. I don't have a lot of armor, so it's not ideal to have to fight these kind of tanks. So I'm just sort of inching up now, using this little hill here to take a quick peek to see if the Ferdinand has moved. Still at his rock, I think, but I'm going to try and YOLO across anyways. I knew I could take the hit. I didn't really want to take the hit, but I knew I could. So the reason I moved up here is to basically get to this guy and use it as a shield. So if the Waffle comes down, the Waffle won't be able to shoot me. And if the Ferdinand gets distracted, I'll have an extra angle to come out and poke on him. So unfortunately for me, it looks like the Ferdinand is way more interested in what I'm doing, so it just sort of stares at the rock the whole time. But that's okay. These are the kind of times when you need patience because, it can be difficult to, sometimes hold your ground and not move. You kind of want to YOLO out there. But once you see him fire, then it's safe. He dies anyway, but you know, it can be sometimes tempting to go out and poke and take that shot. But you want to try and keep yourself alive when there's more tanks left, so that not only do you secure the win, but also you get more out of the game than you would otherwise get. So I have two choices at this point. I go after the T44 and the Waffle, or I go for the VK. Now, I'm kind of concerned about going after the T34 and the Waffle because they're so healthy. And it would be difficult for me to get around to them safely with this VK possibly behind me. So I decided to go for the VK because if I can catch the VK in a right position, I might be able to track him and get around him. It's not a fast tank, so I'm going for the VK instead. You know, going for the Waffle and the T34 may have been fine. It may have been an easy way to get up there, but the way I saw it is I was probably going to get shot in the back, and it would be difficult to approach the T34, who could just hold down and shoot me, and I was one-shotable anyway. So I'm just looking for a shot here on this VK, but I've decided I'm going to try and go around him because I think that's the best chance that I have to get to this VK is to go around. I could kind of go through that little dip area there, but I've decided that this is probably safer. So I'm going to try and get around him now, and he is still there waiting for me. So that was a pretty cool snap, I guess. I just happened to time it perfectly for when he was turning his turret around. So I've gone into here for safety, but this VK is now on T44 pursuit. So yeah, I'm looking around it, and it's difficult because he can just climb everything and come over where he needs to. So unfortunately, despite him having low hit points, he has a repair kit, but it doesn't matter because he gets sniped anyways. So up next we have Westfield, and as you can see, it is not the most favorable matchmaker. In fact, it's about as bad as you can get. There are 3 enemy artillery pieces and a lot of tier 10s, and as a measly little T44 in this game, yeah, things are not looking too great. So I'm a little bit concerned about this because it's quite difficult as a tier 8 or T44 to do much in a tier 10 battle. And IS-3 is actually mostly okay at tier 10. It does really well. T44 not so much. Well, in fact, any tier 8 medium can struggle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use what we have, which is 3 artillery, and I'm going to try and get what I can from this game. So that's I got spawned up here, which is nice, so I can go up here and try and get an early spot on one of the tier 10s and see if I can get him clicked by artillery, punished for his aggression. So the Batshot didn't like me, that's good, and I like the IS-7, so that's what I was looking for. Any tier 10 that I could light for my artillery to punish their camping. So hopefully this IS-4 will get shot so that I get some assisted damage, and that's really what I'm going for. There we go. So a nice bit of added assisted damage there. So yeah, you kind of work with what you have. I saw that we had artillery and I was at this area, so you know I can get here quickly and get a spot, and that's what I went for. So TVP too far over. He was not happy about that. He went for another shot on me, or to get a first shot on me rather, but I backed up a little bit too fast for him. So a pretty decent start for this battle, and a Batshot comes too far over and a shot. You can see that the T44 gun handling is pretty good. I don't have rations running on this tank, and I don't have Brothers in Arms. It's actually a really, really weak crew. I had to move a commander over just so I would have 6th Sense in this tank. So Demo doesn't have a very good crew in this. So I actually think with a good crew and a proper setup, you put rations and you try, this tank might be capable of quite a bit. So anyway, I'm coming up here to see if I can spot anything, such as a TVP running away, or a tank destroyer. I don't see any tank destroyers, which is odd. I thought I might see the JP100, but he's not there, so... The Waffle is in the town, which is interesting. That was an unfortunate bounce, just 140 armor, I guess, doing its thing. So I went for the Commander's Hatch there, which is actually not easy to hit at that distance, unless you've got like a laser gun. But this battle's going pretty well. And this is the best part when it comes to being a tier 8 in a lower tier battle, is when your team begins to win and the battle becomes more spread, you'll find a lot more damage. It's really only the problem when you're a tier 8, when everything is so focalized and everything is you know, forward facing and ready to fight you. So when games are sort of like in their latter stages and things like this, it's much nicer to be a tier 8 because, well, it's not nicer than the tier 10, but it's a better situation for your tier 8 because you can be like sort of like a mosquito just flying around annoying people, and that's kind of what I'm doing, is just flying around and annoying people. So yeah. So TVP over there. That was actually a snap that almost hit. That's almost disappointing that it didn't hit, but I guess that would have been asking for too much. We have a bit of cap pressure, but we have a TVP back there. And one of our artilleries is at least still alive, so I'm kind of moving that way, but then I see that the 140 is going back as well. And to be honest with you, a 140 and a TVP back there should be able to deal with the tier 9 mediums that they have applying pressure to the base. So that's just doing a bit of damage to the artillery. So yeah, this is a nice stage of the game for me because I can sort of, you know, be annoying while they try to deal with tier 10s. So just sniping our artillery friends over here, all in the nice little spot down here, all grouped up. Very dynamic of them. But I'll take the extra damage any day of the week, and the Conqueror is going to back up for allowing me to get another shot, which is nice. Now, they have a T44, and that indicates to me that he is on the 0 line, which isn't exactly rocket science. So, yeah, at least I know where he is. Now, at this point is another time where you sort of think about spotting, because there's a lot of hit points still sort of left that can be lit by you and for your allies. That 268 will die anyway. So, yeah. I'm going to try and go for this TVP, though, because he's low on hit points and, you know, yeah. Unfortunately for me, TVP does quite well here, where he sort of uses the hill as a cover. I actually didn't think he would be able to climb so quickly. So I'm in a bad spot because the TVP is too well protected. I'm trying to find what shots I can get of him. So there's a nice shot, and he's now a one shot, but he's going back into more cover, which sucks for me. But yeah, T44 is slowly doing damage to me, but I'm kind of hoping that he will get, yeah, shot by our IS-7, which he does get. That's also me getting the assisted damage on spotting there, so I will gladly take that. So yeah. It was a risk I was willing to take because I knew that he couldn't really sit there for too long without getting wrecked. The biggest risk is actually the JP100, but he still seems to be interested in being over on the other side of the map. So I'm going to go for him now. TVP is now dead, so I'm going to go for this Jagdtiger, JP100. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I'm going to go for the JP100. And obviously the hope is to get around him and then shoot out his road wheels so that I can track him and farm damage that way. The last thing I want to see is the JP100 staring down at me. And of course that's exactly what he's doing. So, but he rushes his shot, and I am pretty much feeling pretty good about this situation now. I just can't really mess up too badly. If he uses his momentum well, he may have been able to ram me or something else. So, but my drive-by shot did land into his road wheel, so a nice tracking shot there. And you can see I'm going for it again. Always shoot out road wheels. That's the back wheel and the front road wheel that you want to shoot out. And this is basically guaranteed tracks whenever you do that. Any other road wheel, you may or may not track them, but usually shooting out the front or the back road wheel will almost always track an enemy tank. And in tank destroy, it's super important that you do that so that they can't turn around and do any damage to you. So, yeah. 140 is giving me some praise, I guess. It's not like I carried the game. I may have done 3,000 damage in a tier 10 battle though, so you know. Anyway, that's me just being cheeky. So we're going for the C50M, but honestly, like, I can see that we're not going to be able to get to the C50M because our IS-7 is capping. So yeah, I mean, I guess it's fair because there's a chance that we may not kill the E50M with 3 tanks, but oh well, still a good battle for me. So next up we are onto Malinovka, which is as a medium tank, sort of a love-hate relationship. Sometimes it gives you really, really good battles, and other times just really bad battles. The issue with Malinovka being that a lot of it relies on how your team plays and how the enemy team plays, which sort of dictates the flow of the battle and how well you have, or how well you do, excuse me. And unfortunately there are 2 artillery, and artillery is really, really lethal on a map like this. So yeah, and also one of those artillery is an M53-55, which is basically a tier 10 artillery anyway. So yeah, a little concerning to say the least so far, but at the end of the day, you just have to play with what you're given. So we're going to go up to the hill because, you know, it's important to control the hill. It's a high ground position, so it's really useful. You can also spot enemy teams. If you get there quick enough, you can spot them as they're climbing, which will also help your artillery ruin their lives. So yeah, it's important to get the hill if you can take it. If you're going to be alone, then you just have to back off. It sucks to lose it, but, you know, if you're alone, you're going to die anyway, so you have to run away. But I have a couple tanks with me, so I'm relatively confident we can take it. So I'm going to move up here. We have a couple tanks really far up in terms of light tanks. And yeah, wow. Is that a blind shot? I didn't even see that guy get lit, so I don't know if that was a blind shot or not. If it was, that's kind of crazy. But we do have an AMX in the swamp and an SP really far up. He went through the water. The AMX got lit and wrecked by our artillery. But the SP is not lighting anything, but now he just now lit a T30 by the looks of it. So that's at least something that we... Not a T30, sorry. A 110. I'm sorry. I'm trying to watch it on a smaller screen while I record this, and it's really difficult sometimes to read the finer print. So I do apologize if I mislabel tanks sometimes. So T29 and a 110 moving up. I'm going to get some early shots onto the 110 as he tries to climb. Hopefully he'll get shot at by our artillery while he's trying to climb. But yeah, it's difficult sometimes because you don't know how far to poke out. Because if you're not careful, their enemy artillery will also be pre-aimed for you. So, but I'm getting some nice shots here on this guy, and the important thing is that their kind of push up the hill has been stalled somewhat. The 110's still trying to come up, but he's not sure, and you know, some of their other guys are a little bit concerned about pushing up the hill. So this is really what you want, is you want to dissuade the enemy team from pushing up here, because really they need to push up here, and they need to take this position from us. But if they get caught in sort of like a limbo, where they're in a no man's land here, it's very, very easy to kill them, because you can poke out when you want and you're completely covered, whereas they're not completely covered. So yeah, I went for that just because I knew that I wouldn't have time to pull forward and hit his hull before he fired back at me. So I'm trying to do damage to his turret there. Their turret, I don't know how it works. The armor on the T34 or T29 is very confusing. How the turret armor works. Like, it's like the hatch is unpennable sometimes. I don't really know. I don't know. Things are going okay so far. I didn't really want to take that hit, but do need to do some damage to these guys because our T44-1 is losing the position he's in, and that was just me panic shooting. Not a very good bit of play there, but that's okay. It's not the end of the world. So I'm just tracking this 110 here. I tried to shoot through his track and road wheel, but I didn't really have much hope. But I just wanted to slow his momentum down. Our artillery hasn't fired once on these guys, and I was beginning to get angry about it, and then that happened, and I was just like, oh, okay. So yeah, it's always like that. I remember on stream, I'll be like, what is our artillery doing? These guys have been exposed for so long. I guess what the artillery was doing is they were focused on the south for a long time. I hate those south pushes. They're so dumb. They only work when your enemy team or your team is dumb. If your team is worse than their team, then that's the time that pushing south works. But otherwise, it should always fail. So yeah, we've sort of done okay so far. We've pushed them back off the hill, which is nice. We have control of the hill. That was really, really unfortunate. But we now have hill control, which is really important. We've killed a couple of their tanks on the hill. And we have at least some high ground control. But the balance of the map is still kind of even. You know, we have 6 kills that are 5, but it's not that we're really winning that cleanly. At least one of their artilleries was counter batteried at some point, or perhaps killed. I'm not really sure. I would imagine counter battery. I don't really see how one of our tanks could have killed them, but yeah. So we're just gonna sort of prod and poke now. This is when we need an AMX 1390 to actually do some spotting. Now, so I'm going to tell him if he can do some spotting. You know, I'm going to ask him, and he actually does respond. with going to go do some spotting. So, you know, sometimes asking does work, and sometimes light tanks on your team will go spot things instead of trying to snipe from the top of the hill. Unfortunately, I think it's nice that he goes to do some spotting, but he sort of YOLOs in there, I think, which is not really what we wanted. Also, the 54-1, I think, follows him, and they sort of go ham into the forest, and yeah, it's redundant. You don't need two people in the same spotting position or in the same area. You only really need one guy to do the spotting while everyone snipes from a safe distance. But let's see, so yeah, there goes the 1390 going for his full ham spot. I'm just seeing if I can get a shot on this AMX, because the more light tanks that die, the better, but there's no shot. So our AMX 1390 has gone full ham into the forest, and I can't shoot the 34, but I can at least shoot the Scorpion for him. Now, what the 1390 should have done is sort of like inched forward bush by bush, and there's no way they would have detected him, and eventually he would have spotted something, but instead he like full momentum went in there, which wasn't good. However, at this point, you know, I have to go in because otherwise we're going to lose our base. And so yeah, you can kind of see by counting the enemy team just how many tanks they have. So I'm going to go in and deal with this guy as fast as possible, probably the artillery as well. He expected me to be from another position. That's the T44 armor doing its thing. I mean, this guy doesn't have the most glorious pen in the world, so yeah. Just looking for the artillery now, but you know, by counting the enemy team, you can kind of see where they are on the minimap, so I know that I'm safe to go over here now. Still would have been nice to have the AMX actually taking this a bit slower and carefully, so that, you know, he would still be alive at this point, but that's okay. So it's very, very even. You can see 10 to 10 at this point, and it's really in the balance, this map. So I'm moving up here to see what I can find. Obviously, the artillery's moved, so the artillery can't have gone that far, because artillery doesn't usually go that far. So I know that he's around here somewhere, and I seriously doubt that he's already in our base. That would be pretty crazy. It's not unheard of, but artillery pretty much doesn't move that much, even if it is a batch shot already. So I'm just kind of moving up to see what I can find, and that is the first thing I see is a T44-1. Now, you can see the level of these hills. They're really, really nice. The increases and decreases in terrain height here is really nice for a tank like a T44 or any tank with even half decent depression. Like a 62A would wreck here. Like, you don't need a ton of depression, but like just being low to the ground and having a good turret here is really nice. The 54-1 has absolutely no shots on me, and I can just shoot him for free. If he stopped to fire on me, I could just hide. So he has to keep moving, and I am just farming him for days, which is really nice. And the T30 finally kills him, which is cool. So I'm moving back over here because I'm a little concerned about this guy here, the bat shot already, shooting me if I stopped and stayed over in that area. So I was just swerving a little bit. And yes, despite swerving quite a lot, the bat shot already was still able to hit me, but I survived with 1 hit point. So I don't know, RNGesus, that does RNGesus things. So yeah, I'm gonna go after this bat shot already now. He fired, so I have to go after him pretty much. But unfortunately for me, this AMX comes from behind, so he left a swamp. Now, AMX is desperately trying to shoot me, and I'm trying to use the little terrain to move my height and position. And I managed to get away from the AMX. It doesn't have a very accurate gun, so there's the bat shot already. And I actually think that he's not moving at this point, and I underestimate the speed at which he can turn, and yeah, that doesn't end very well. So, moving on to Winter Himmelsdorf, which is a map that's obviously, you know, is kind of okay when you get a medium tank. It sort of depends. Like, mediums on Himmels are like, sometimes they have the best battles ever, and then other times it's just like, rip. A lot of it can depend on how the hill fight goes and other things like that. I mean, obviously there are other ways to play mediums on Himmelsdorf, but generally you go to the hill. Now, I'm on the side of the hill, or excuse me, the side of the map that isn't very good for taking the hill, and that's because the north has a big disadvantage. You have one way up the hill, it funnels you up, and this area is vulnerable to the castle rubble area, where obviously both teams sort of meet and they sort of trade shots. This area is very vulnerable to fast tanks that get up there and then can sit there and snipe. So it's a gamble to try and take the hill from this side. The other problem is you can't run away for the exact same reasons. It's very difficult and can be very costly to run away. Whereas the other side gets 2 approaches of the hill, and one of them is extremely safe. The other one is still safe because you just sort of surf along the ridge anyway. So yeah, the other side of the hill is much, much safer. So you can see here where this bat shed is. And if I poke up here, I could get shot by him. So I have to be very careful and time it perfectly so that it does not end well for me. Or so it does end well for me. I'm using this IS-3 as a sort of shield, but then he sort of cuts in so deep that I get pushed against the wall anyway. But he snaps into that bat shot, and I kind of feel almost sorry for this bat shot because he gets snapped there. This is me going for a little cheeky shot in the bat shot while he's dealing with the tank behind me. So at least we have the hill now, which is better than not having the hill. I still have to be very careful. Now, obviously, you know, once you get up the hill, you have to be careful because a lot of times there'll be artillery in the southern end on the 1-2 line. Yeah, that's not something you really want to deal with if you can avoid it. So at this point, I'm just sort of looking to see what shots I can get on these guys. But if I do get lit, it could be potentially dangerous for me. But if you're not lit and you can shoot these guys, there's lots and lots of damage you can get out of it. But you can see that we already have complete control over the hill. The bat shot was pretty much the only thing they sent over here. I'm not really going to move at this point because I have shots. But if I didn't have shots, I would already be moving down the hill, I think. But because I have shots down here, I thought it'd be okay. Now, that bounced, but I thought it would pen because the T28 is so low to me that his front plate is actually angled down. I'm making it sort of flat to me. So I actually thought that would pen, but I was disappointed that it didn't, but that's okay. Still getting a little bit of damage out of this prototype anyways, so it's not the end of the world. Just avoiding the super Pershing there. And you see the T28 is sort of looking for a shot again. So, yeah, you know, it's just something you have to be careful with, I guess, when you get Himmelsdorf. If you're on the north side of the map, hill is something that you either commit to take if you have a lot of people, or you sort of say, look, it's not really feasible for us to control it. So, yeah, still getting shots up here, so there's no reason for me to move. But now that T28's dead, I'm going to move back here. Now, you can see there's a little gap here, and generally you can shoot guys if you time it right. Unfortunately for me, there's a tiger here to shoot, so yeah. Nice bit of extra damage for me here because of the tiger. Thank you, Mr. Tiger. Just about got a second shot in there, but obviously these guys are going to be in the roads, so I need to move off of the hill to go help my team near my base. So that's what I'm going to do. You can see that obviously there's a lot of our tanks already in the south cleaning up those tanks, so if I'd have gone that way, there would have been nothing for me to do. We would have cleaned them up by the time I got down there, so chose this direction for that reason, that I knew that I would be able to get some shots on these guys. Just looking for shots on this T69, and there we go. So yeah, pretty much a good battle, I suppose. It's not like it was a long battle or anything like that, but the efficiency of the positions I was in allowed me to get damage out of it. And there's still a little bit for me to do at the end of this battle. Not a lot, but you know, a little bit of cleanup damage. And you can't really underestimate cleanup damage. It's I know, like, playing the initial battle is really important, but you know, when you're in a position where it's the end of the battle and all there is left is cleanup, it's very important to be as efficient as possible with the cleanup. And the reason for that is, this is kind of funny, by the way. This is why you wiggle, because you make auto bounce angles and it's really amusing. Anyway, it's really important to be careful with the cleanup damage, because if you can be maximum efficient with it, you can milk the last bit of every bit of damage. Even if it's one extra shot, it's really important that you take the time to do it as efficiently as possible and think about where will there be the most damage and what should I focus on, other things like that, because it allows you to get a lot more out of games. So we're going to end this video just how we started. That's on Siegfried Line Assault on attack mode once again. Now, just before I talk a little bit about this battle, you'll notice that although it's the exact same map and the exact same side, I'm going to go to a different position here, and that's purely because I spawned in the south versus the north, and it's important to get early damage, and you don't often get early damage if you're a little bit late to the area you want to be at. So I'm going to go to this position, which is also very good. The other position is good too, but this position is good for if you spawn on this side. You can generally pick off a bit of early damage. Now, anyway, usually when I do a third mark video, I finish the video with the actual game that I 3-marked the tank. And the T44's third mark game was like 2800 or something like that, so it wasn't a bad game or anything. It was just, you know, this game is a lot better, and I didn't feel like including the mark game purely because it was okay. You know, it was a good battle. Wasn't much to say about it, I suppose. So, whereas with a tier 10, generally, you know, it's a very good game, the game that you 3-mark the tank on, because obviously how difficult it is to do it. Aside to say that like this is easy or anything, because that sounds arrogant, but it's just I guess the T44 is just more casual. I could do it at an easier pace than a tier 10, which would have required complete focus to do. So anyway, you can see this position is nice. I've already caught out this super pushing and this Carnarvon, and I'm just like trying to snipe them. You can sort of just play down here and bait them around the corner for your allies to shoot at as well as yourself. And yeah, it's just really nice to sort of play them here. And they're having a real hard time dealing with me in this position. So that's why I've gone here so far. Now I'm just going to crawl up here, and I do actually take damage, and that's from a little tank destroyer. Well, I say little, he hit me for 400, so yeah, not exactly damage I wanted to take, but he is directly in front of me. He will show up very soon here. And there you see him. So he doesn't have a ton of hit points, so I'm going to try and get him out as soon as possible. That was a well-aimed shot, but unfortunately it went high. Now, I think this little guy becomes sort of like a thorn in my side, because every time I try to shoot him, at least in the beginning of the battle, he seems to like evade it somehow with some like deflector shield. I don't know. But unfortunately, yeah, I don't get much damage out of this guy. Just going for the OI there, but no such luck. But you can see also that there's no artillery, and that's really key because it allows me to stay in this position without having to move around a shitload to try to avoid a potential click from the back of the base. It's not really something that I want to have happen to me in this game. Once again, SU escapes my clutches, yeah, without the artillery, you don't have to worry about it too much, and you can just sort of crawl up on these hills. You know, the steady inclines of these hills are so nice for tanks like the T44. You don't have to have like Pershing levels of depression, although you can kind of still play like a Pershing because you can still sort of play on the hills like this. And once again, don't ask me how, but this rebel scum is somehow able to evade me once again. So instead I'm just going to go for the Centurion, because apparently the Centurion is shootable. It's just not this SU. So I'm just going to try and use this dead tank as a shield. Unfortunately, not in time, and the Centurion is able to do damage to me. But obviously, I want to kill the Centurion, so I'm still looking for a shot. That wasn't much hope with that shot, because obviously I'm shooting at his turret. But this one, hopefully, will get him. There we go. So the Centurion really isn't a very good tank. I don't know. I feel like it needs a buff. But I guess I don't play turret enough to claim that I know the balance well enough, but from what I can see, the Centurion just isn't a great tank. So at this point, our team is doing really well, and I'm just relocating to the back here, and the reason I'm doing this is because I can't see a way I can push safely through the town with the amount of tanks they have there, but I do think there's maybe some tanks over here that I can help my guys over here with. So I'm just going to see if I can find some. Now, I was going to go down there, and I think it was because originally I planned to go all the way around and come up on the ridge line, but then I kind of figured that I would get shots here, so I came back up. And again, this SU somehow evades me. I think this one kills him, though. Yeah, finally. He can't escape forever. So, yeah. He goes down with the Death Star plans, and I'm just going to try and poke on this Japanese heavy. I'm running out of APCR. I've used quite a lot of APCR because this battle is quite late, I think, in the session. So I'm just like desperate to try and make sure RNG doesn't screw me out of a mark. Although, to be honest with you, I think I would have got it regardless. But I wanted to be extra careful. This is part of the legacy of trying to mark tier 10s, is you just like don't leave things to chance with RNG involved. You never know what matchmaker you're going to get shafted with next, so... yeah, I've traded relatively well with these guys, so I'm gonna come around here now, though, because I don't think they're going to poke any more than they already have, and I want to try and deal some damage to the Scorpion, because we're losing quite badly, and I want to see if I can do some damage to the Scorpion, which will help our team, because the Scorpion is the most threatening tank they still have on their team. So a nice shot there into the Scorpion. We have an IS-3 in the field. I don't really know if he's been in the field the entire battle, because I haven't really been paying attention to him. But he has full hit points. I don't know if he loaded in late or what it was. I guess I could play this back and look, but it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, it is what it is. You have to do what you have. So the Super Pershing is now surrounded, and I know that by the time I get to the Super Pershing, I won't be able to help him. He'll be dead anyway, and also I'll be cut off from my team because they have so many tanks in the city. Well, my team consisting of this IS-3. I should be clear. Now, I'm going over here, and basically this is about kiting the opponents away. Sort of hit them bit by bit. So, yeah, I'm going for whatever damage I can get as they try to cross this field to hit this IS-3. Now, the IS-3 should come to where I am, because we actually could win the game if because they have to come across an open field while we just farm them while they push the field. But you can see how effective I'm being. Now, the IS-3, unfortunately, in the position that he's in, has now left him open to being flanked from the north coming down. So he's okay from the tanks coming directly from the city, but there'll be tanks coming from the field soon. You can see them there. Now I'm going for gonna go try and make these tanks back off a little bit for the IS-3, but I just don't have the firepower to really push them back. I can do a bit of damage, but at the end of the day, these guys aren't going to be too scared. Now, if I could do it again, I think what I might do is go directly for the Scorpion, because unfortunately the IS-3 doesn't shoot the Scorpion, who is probably the biggest threat on the field still. And if I could do it again, I think that's what I would do, purely because the Scorpion comes after me. And yeah, he is the fastest tank, the biggest gun. And see, I track him there, but like it puts him down and he gets to shoot me. So yeah, it kind of sucks because it was actually like a 4k plus damage game, but it was maybe winnable. So that wraps up the video for the T44 third mark session finish. I hope that you guys enjoyed it, and I hope that it was helpful to some of you. I apologize that this video should have come out sooner, but unfortunately I got a sore throat over the weekend, so obviously this is a ton of talking. So what I wasn't able to finish, I had to wait to be able to finish, so I do apologize for that. But nonetheless, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I'll catch you on the next video.